the message that if you touch an Australian, we're going to make you and your friend's life hell. Western democracies should link hands in this approach and put on a united front.
After his release, Humphrey successfully campaigned against China's state-owned English-language TV outlet CGTN. The network had put the Humphrey case on full public display and published their alleged confession. This led the UK's top regulator to revoke CGTN's UK broadcast license. The agency also imposing an approximately $125,000 fine.
Coming up, a violent stabbing leaves a child seriously injured and 2 more wounded. A Chinese man allegedly attacked 3 young children outside of a daycare center in Switzerland. Taiwanese authorities deported 2 Chinese nationals after they harassed a group of Hong Kongers in public. What we know about what's happening. And Ukraine
not going to back up Iran.
You're watching this.
Waters, but Germany responded they were in international waters exercising freedom of navigation. That's a similar stance held by the United States and Taiwan. China claims almost the entire South China Sea as its own, including the Taiwan Strait.
Yeah.
Despite the Permanent Court of Arbitration in 2016 saying China's claims had no legal basis.
With 2 wars happening across Ukraine and the Middle East, plus a potential war between China and Taiwan, totalitarian regimes are involved. Russia, China, and Iran have been known to work together to an extent, but how far do their ties really go? To dive in, NTD News Washington correspondent Jack Bradley spoke to Shahrzad Ghani, the publisher and CEO of the Epoch Times Persian edition.
Russia relies mostly on the Chinese regime for its defense industrial supply, its war machine against Ukraine. With these powers, Iran, Russia, and China working together, what could the future of all this mean?
Visit of Prime Minister of Russia to Iran is considered, experts say it's more like a gesture of Russia that shows to the United States that amidst all these tensions in Middle East, they still want to support Iran, because Iran is a country that provides missiles and provides drones to Russia and is supporting Russia in the war with Ukraine. But at the same time, China has a lot of benefits through its relation to Saudi Arabia, especially on oil. Yes, for sure, it's buying Iran's oil as well. It's just not considering sanctions and buying Iran's oils, but its relation with Saudi Arabia, it comes on top priority than in Iran. It also supports Iran because it enjoys having tensions inside the Middle East, and because the tensions inside Middle East distracts Western countries, especially US, from what might come up as a war in the future with China. But at the same time, most analysis says that there probably wouldn't be a big support from China to Islamic republics. Islamic Republic cannot count on China's support because there are a lot of other elements to consider if there is a war in the Middle East, that China is not going to back up Iran. On the other hand, we can see that right now Russia is busy with the war with Ukraine, and this visit mostly is considered as something that they say they want to support Iran. During the visit they talked about expansion and cooperation more on economics, on energy, infrastructure, but at the same time it more had a message. But for sure, we cannot say how much really Russia can afford another war while they are really right now a little bit behind in Ukraine.
Shahrzad Ghani, thank you very much for that insight here today.
Thank you for having me.
To China, the new Labor government is planning to audit relations, guided by the line to cooperate, compete with, and challenge China. But the report says key economic and security risks must be brought into focus. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has more for us from London.
Boy.
As part of their election manifesto, the British Labour government promised to audit UK-China relations, with work currently underway. Tone has shifted in recent years from the so-called golden era of British-China relations to a greater understanding of the threat posed by Beijing. A new paper is calling on the government to answer key questions in its audits. The report by the China Strategic Risks Institute says the audit needs to be integrated across government departments, not simply the domain of the Foreign Office. Areas of risk include Chinese investment into critical infrastructure. China's state-owned wealth fund holds over $22 billion of assets in the UK, including Heathrow Airport, the Thames Water Utility Company, and a major logistics firm. Another Chinese state-owned firm has a one-third stake in a British nuclear power station. The report highlights how Chinese companies must give information to state intelligence agencies when requested, even involving activities outside China. The report asks, could this information enhance the Chinese Communist Party's surveillance, espionage, and cyber attack capabilities? Supply chains are also a point of focus. China controls 75% of global lithium battery production. It extracts 60% of the world's critical minerals and processes 85% of them. These are rare minerals used for applications from mobile phones to military equipment. China has in recent years imposed stricter export controls over rare earth metals and the technology to process them. The report warns this market dominance could give China leverage over Britain if geopolitical tensions in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Seas escalate. And on cybersecurity risks, the report points to the UK's refusal to impose tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles. This means China is likely to gain a sizable market share in Britain in the coming years. But given some electric vehicles collect terabytes of data every day, including audio-visual recordings and location data, the report warns again the Chinese regime can demand data from private Chinese firms, posing a significant security risk. The report recommends the government pays close attention to the economic security risks that China poses to the UK. It also calls to engage with policy experts and civil society groups to expand the government's pool of knowledge. Additionally, it says that information should be disseminated across the whole of government to have a coherent UK-China policy, and importantly, it calls for an unclassified summary to be published both to Parliament and to the wider public. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you.
We're helping them by going overseas and buying the cheap and expensive wines that are undercutting the California producers. And the story gets even worse and more complicated because a lot of this bulk wine coming in shows up on products in grocery stores labeled as American. And the federal regulations allow you to blend in up to 25% foreign wine and still call it an American wine. And so many consumers who really want to support American producers may not even know that they are buying a foreign sourced wine. One of the big pushes for me and why I've come out and started talking about this is that I think we talk a lot in California about sustainability. We talk a lot about environmental and social policies. And at the end of the day, the foundational values of that are based on community and supporting your community. And if your community is struggling, then everybody's struggling. And so investing in your community is more than just sponsoring the local softball team or baseball team. It really means investing in your community. And when our largest vintners, largest wineries are going overseas and buying cheap wine instead of buying it from the local growers, they're not investing in their local communities the way that they really should be. And if we are going to thrive here in California, we need to really have a community-first approach to things and really support our local economies and support our local communities. That effort and those values then trickle down throughout the whole economy and lifts everyone up. We're based in the Central Valley, and we have chronically higher unemployment than other parts of California. And these business practices are taking away jobs from those that
because the people that are going to do the picking, they don't have a job.
They're going to do the picking, the tractor driving, the paperwork. The whole supply chain is being affected by this. The fertilizer companies that support us, the trucking companies that haul the grapes, everyone is being impacted by this.
I'm sure you guys have been talking how to fix this.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think on the first fix we need is we need Congress to fix this loophole that allows foreign wine to come in with a subsidy and not pay their alcohol taxes. That's the first solution. The second solution is we need to refocus our efforts on supporting our communities and really embrace the sustainable values that are the foundation of the California industry. I think the third option is at the consumer level, and this is where you come into play, and this is where everyone that enjoys wine comes into play. It's like when you go into your grocery store, you look at the label and see where it comes from, and you ask your retailers, you ask your restaurants, you should be sourcing California wine. We want to see California wine here. We need to see American-made wine, 100% American-made wine. And I think if we can get consumers to think about that, it can make a difference. And I think that is foundational to moving and changing our situation.
Yeah, I feel that way about all products.
If you're